we need to understand firewalls, how they're used, what they do, and so forth. A firewall is simply a device or software, can be either one, that can block unauthorized access and permit authorized access. So it may be on the perimeter of our network. So if this is my network over here, you notice I have a firewall here on the perimeter, or I could even put a software firewall on this router itself to keep myself separated from this nasty internet traffic over here. Now, the original design of the firewall was to keep out unsolicited traffic. In other words, if I'm connected to the internet, I only want solicited traffic. That is to say, if I request a web page, I want that web page to be allowed onto my network. But if I haven't requested anything, I don't want hackers to be able to get into my network. So that was the original design of these firewalls. Today, it can actually filter both incoming and outgoing traffic as well. So suppose that I don't want, on my network, I don't want people to be able to request chat services or file transfer services. I could block those outgoing requests by firewall as well. Hardware and software firewalls. You see here a hardware firewall. This is a Cisco ASA firewall. These are, of course, more expensive to use, but the nice thing is that they block traffic before it even reaches the device. So consider this hardware firewall right here that's inside my network. This is not on the perimeter, but an internal firewall. And if I'm protecting this computer right here, I block the traffic that I want to block even before it reaches that computer. And so it is better security than the software firewall. Now, the software firewall means that on the computer itself, such as the one in this upper corner here, so that software is running on this computer. It's cheaper. I don't have to buy the hardware. But notice that it's not really stopping traffic until after that traffic has already reached the computer. That is not quite as secure. We would like to stop it before it even reaches the computer altogether. Let's talk about the various kinds of firewalls. The very simplest ones are called stateless or packet filtering firewalls. They just filter based on things like the IP address, the port number, or a MAC address, or a protocol. In fact, these things here on the firewalls that are built into most routers today are simply packet filtering or stateless firewalls. You can say only from this IP address to this IP address. So therefore, I can block, say, my production employees from reaching the HR computers because I put on that firewall on the router that the production computers are not allowed to access the payroll or HR computer. Stateful firewalls are aware of connections. So they know, for example, that this computer is talking on the internet and that conversation is in progress. If any packet tries to be injected into that data stream, it's going to check that and make sure that it actually belongs to that data stream. And if it doesn't belong, it can filter that. So that's called a stateful firewall. Firewalls today can also act as content filter. Now, it's a little slower when you do this because remember that the communication comes in little packets. Well, it takes maybe hundreds or thousands of packets for a conversation, for the content to be revealed. And so that firewall has to gather up all that information and check it for the content before it can pass that on to the computer. So this will slow it down, but you can do content filtering with a firewall. You can also filter based on application, such things as protocol that it's using, HTTP, FTP, and so on, or a program. I don't want my Adobe Acrobat program, for example, to be able to send and receive data, or a service that's running on the computer. So now let's take a look at firewalls, at the firewall that is on our computer here. I'm just going to type firewall. And here is the software firewall built into a Windows computer. As you can see, I've got inbound rules, so those things coming into the computer, outbound rules, so blocks and permissions going outside of the computer, and then some special connection type rules. If I click either inbound or outbound rules, you can see that I have lots of firewall rules sitting here, but let's click new rule and see what kind of rules we can have. So I can have rules based on programs, rules based on ports such as TCP, UDP port numbers, some predefined rules, and if I click that and click this drop down, you'll see I have lots of different predefined types of rules. I can set firewalls to allow or deny remote desktop, for example, or virtual machine monitoring, Wi-Fi direct. So lots of different kinds of predefined ones that I have here. Or I can even make a custom rule. And with a custom rule, if I click next, you'll see that I can just apply that firewall to all programs or a specific program or even a service that runs on my computer. Now, if I go back, whoops, I didn't mean to get out of my firewall altogether. If I go down to connection security rules and say new rule, you see that I now have some things such as isolation, restrict connections based on authentication criteria, authentication exemptions, server to server, tunneling, and then custom rules. So I have lots and lots and lots of different ways that I can filter content using my firewall. You can do even more with a hardware firewall.